Hi, it's Steph, and I thought that I would take you around and show you what's looking beautiful in the garden right now as we head into the end of May. This combo in this corner is looking so beautiful at the moment. This false spirea on the right has the most beautiful spring color. It really shines in the spring with all of this pink and yellow and chartreuse color. And it's such a nice contrast against this wine and roses Weigela that I have blooming on the side of it. My Norway spruce in the back recently had all of its new spring growth, and it's put on some more size. And it's also looking really pretty. We had a couple of days of wind and one day with tons of rain, and it really did a number on my beautiful iris and the alliums that I had planted up and down the front walkway borders. But there are still some holding on, and then I have other iris that will be blooming shortly that are still nice and upright and budded tightly. The purple sensation alliums actually faded pretty quickly this year. So in this bed, they must get more sun than in my other bed because these are already spent, where the ones in my main walkway bed are still looking pretty fresh. And this beautiful clump here is the fashionably early crystal phlox that I planted in a video last summer. Bought 2 containers of these on clearance at Home Depot, and they were absolutely beautiful. They're really light, pale, lavender, almost white looking phlox. And it should look really pretty any day now. And the sedum that we transplanted is also doing well. And my cat's pajamas nepeta is always buzzing with tons of bees. In fact, there's one in that one right there. My salvia is fully bloomed, and it looks really pretty with this concertina iris. It's a bearded iris. And my penstemon is going to bloom shortly. This is the Midnight Masquerade penstemon. It has a really pretty dark foliage and a light pink lavender colored bloom. Here's another really beautiful iris. This one is a light peach with a little bit of a creamy fall. And I don't recall the name of it, but it's really beautiful. And really, really tall. There's one back here that has to be about 4 feet tall. In this bed, all of my iris are pretty much a peach color with a little bit of purple, and I really love it. This is what happened with the rain that we had over the weekend. There was a ton of rain, and it really pummeled these to the ground. There's lots of daylilies in this bed that I'm going to be thinning out. Once they start blooming and I know what color they are, I'm going to take them all out, and I'm going to divide and move around my iris to give them more space so that hopefully I can get more blooms next year. My main walkway bed also has lots of spring color. All of my purple sensation alliums have bloomed, and my cat's pajamas nepeta is also looking really pretty and in full bloom. And even the salvia is starting to open up. Lots of pretty purples along the front. My Carl Forrester grasses that I planted here last year are starting to gain some height. And the roses are all budded up. These are my double pink knockout roses. The bowl of beauty peony is starting to bloom. It's a really beautiful hot pink peony with some yellow in the center. Really pretty. There's quite a few buds on it this year. This was a bare root peony that I started about 3 years ago, and it's done incredibly well. I do have to move it out of this spot because it is a bit crowded, and I think it could do a lot better in a different spot, but it's looking really pretty. Here is my driveway retaining wall bed, and it's also looking really pretty with lots of shades of purple. The weeping blue spruce also has its spring bright blue color. And my peonies are loaded with buds. And this allium here is new to me this year. It is called Allium Christophi, and it has a really large globe, but it has a very open structure with these little star-shaped blooms. They're really pretty, very airy, and I'm really enjoying them. I had purchased them in a pack of bulbs from Lowe's. The phlox is still blooming and looking really pretty. And my Siberian iris is also starting to open up. This tiny wine 9-bark has all of its buds in these tiny little clusters, and it should be opening up and blooming shortly. The Heritage River birch that we planted last spring just finished leafing out. It's looking really pretty. The Japanese maple in my patio bed is looking really beautiful this year. The canopy has gotten really wide and nice and full. We are going to prune on it a little bit to size control it, which we do every spring. And my Geum has also been blooming for a couple of weeks. This variety of Geum is called Mai Tai, and it's a really beautiful light peach color, like an apricot peach. And it comes up on these wiry stems, has this really pretty dark green broadleaf foliage, and they bloom for quite a while. These have been blooming for about 2 weeks now, and the pollinators absolutely love them. And there's still a bunch of buds that need to open up. I think what's helping these stay fresh a bit longer is because it has been pretty cool in the last couple of weeks. We had a day of rain, so they're just really happy right now. This lollipop or standard blue spruce is also looking really pretty with all of its soft new growth. And I had a delphinium that a friend shared with me come back, which I haven't had delphinium come back reliably for me in the past, so that was really exciting to see. The summer gold Japanese maple has also leaved out. And the coneflowers are starting to get nice and full. I did lose a couple of things here. Do you guys see that? There's a bunny back there. Right there. So I deal with some visitors in the garden too, but luckily there is a bunch of clover up there. So the bunny and the groundhog luckily tend to stay on that area with the clover. but I still spray just to be on the safe side. My lilies, the Asian lilies or the Asiatic lilies, are also all leaved out. But my roses in this bed are struggling. I have a carding mill here that is a couple of years old, and it's never really put on much size. It's just not happy. This is another David Austin pink one. The name escapes me at the moment. But I also have a Lady Gardener here that is also struggling a little bit. So now I'm tempted to just dig these out and grow them in a pot for the summer and to see if I can nurse them back to health. I also transplanted some Joe Pye weed that I had in my woodland bed because a friend told me that they like a bit more sun, and it has really pretty foliage with this dark coloring. So I thought I would give it a try in this area where I dug up my pugster butterfly bushes that didn't make it through the winter. I gave my lavender a haircut a few weeks back, and I fed it with some plant tone, and it's already starting to put on a bunch of new growth. This is the only type of lavender that I've had come back for me a few years now, and it is the Munstead English lavender. It's pretty hardy in my zone 6B, and I grew it from seed using the winter sowing method. So it's done really well for me. It will start getting a little bit more blue-gray as the season progresses and it starts to warm up. And then of course it has really beautiful purple blooms. I also had some of these cat's pajamas nepeta planted along the front of this bed, but because this is a really wet bed, it didn't do so well and it's actually died off on me. You can see one little one here that's holding on for dear life. I also have this Acorus Ogon sweet flag that I'm going to be dividing some more, and what I'll do is I will replace the nepeta with some more of this sweet flag. George is doing some more work in our Japanese maple garden area. I have some iris and some daylily in here that have all new foliage. And I have some wee white hydrangeas here. I actually have a drift of 5 of them across the front of the bed here. And I'm thinking that I'm going to dig them up soon to try a different hydrangea. Although I do really like these and I like how compact they are, they only stay about or get to be 18 to 24 inches tall and wide, so they're pretty compact. The issue is that they crisp up in the sun that I have them here. This is a full sun location, so I think I need something that can handle sun a bit better. So my thought is that I may replace them, these wee white hydrangeas, with the Firelight Tidbit, which is a panicle type hydrangea, and they can generally take more sun, and they're also fairly compact. They are slightly bigger than the wee white, but still have that compact size and really pretty blooms. This sweet flag is really great. I actually love it. It needs a little cleaning up because it's been through the winter. So now what I'm going to do, because I want to divide it, is I'm going to dig it up. I'm going to divide it. I'm going to replant it, like I said, across the front of this bed. And I think it'll really like the little bit of a refresh. It gets a really beautiful golden color and stays this way. It's evergreen for me here in my zone 6. It gets a little paler over the winter. But then once the spring comes, it starts to get more golden and really pretty. And along the edge here, these are not any kind of fancy grass. They're just some weeds. We have been so busy working on that project in the back in that new garden area that we're a little behind on some garden chores this year, like weeding, edging, mulching, but it'll get done eventually. Here you can see the wee white hydrangeas along the front, and right behind them I have some allium, some that are finished blooming, some that are currently blooming, and some that will be blooming. The three varieties that I have are Globemaster, Gladiator, and Ambassador. There are some really beautiful white iris that are going to start blooming soon in the center there. And so I might do another short tour in a couple of weeks because I have a feeling things are going to change quickly. I feel like everything in my garden is a bit ahead this year, or coming into bloom a lot faster than in years past. Let me know if you find that to be the case in your garden where you are as well. I have some perennial alliums in the front here. I have 3 clumps of, I believe it's Millennium Allium. And in the front garden, in one of my borders in the front next to the driveway, I have amethyst bubbles. But it's looking really pretty, the foliage. I have a sedum right behind there hiding that needs to be dug out and moved because it's not getting enough sun. It's the Proven Winners Rock and Grow Lemon Jade Sedum. But I'm really loving this Japanese maple. I also have a really pretty Weigela that's currently blooming. It is the My Monet Purple Effect Weigela. This is a dwarf or more compact form of Weigela. The My Monet Purple Effect is a Proven Winners shrub, and it gets to be 18 to 30 inches tall and wide. And what I really like about this particular Weigela is that even after it's done blooming, it's really pretty because it's got this really nice looking variegated foliage. And this spring I bought these green gem boxwood. I have 7 of them, and they are a more compact variety of boxwood. They are listed as being 2 feet tall by 2 feet wide. And of course you can prune boxwood to whatever shape you'd like and to size control them. And my plan is to plant them along the front of this patio bed here for some winter or evergreen interest. The butterfly blue scabiosa that I transplanted from those pots I had on the front porch, I did that in a video a couple of weeks ago, is starting to bloom. I had overwintered this scabiosa in some pots in my shed. They lived on my front porch last spring and summer, and then I overwintered them in my shed. And then when I lost the scabiosa butterfly blue that I had planted here in the corner of my patio bed, I went ahead and replaced it with the scabiosa that I had in my pots. Now this is a beautiful perennial. The only downside that I found at this point is that it's called a short-lived perennial, and that means that you might have it in your garden for 3 to 5 years and then it will stop returning. So something to keep in mind, but the pollinators absolutely love it. It's really beautiful, and it has buds and blooms non-stop from spring through a hard frost. So it's a really good one. Here in my back shed beds, I'm making a couple of changes. So recently I dug up some autumn joy sedum here on the left side, and I took out the Helen von Steen lamb's ear on the right side, in the front there. And I'm going to be planting some boxwoods that I overwintered. I also purchased a Hakonakloa all gold Japanese forest grass to place in the front there of the magnolia. They like shade, so the magnolia will provide some nice shade for that grass. And I think it'll echo the color yellow that I have dotted in the bed with the Angelina stonecrop sedum. This is the grass that I'll be planting here. It's the Hakonakloa macra all gold, and it likes part shade, and it's hardy from zone 6 or to zone 6. And I think it'll look really pretty here. And my astilbe is all leafed out. I actually just fed it with some plant tone earlier this week. Astilbe like to be fed for them to bloom best, and I think I was a little late this year, so hopefully they still perform pretty well. There in the background you can see the yellow Angelina stonecrop, and this variegated iris alba has sent up all of its bloom stalks and should be blooming any day now. And I also have a beautiful black bearded iris in the back there that is also getting ready to open up. And what a difference a few hours makes. This iris opened up throughout the course of the day. A little heat from the sun is all it needed. It's just beautiful. This one is called Black is Black. And even the variegated iris alba in the back there also started to open. The Zephrine Druin Rose that I planted up this trellis last spring is doing well so far. I never get too optimistic with roses because I sort of have bad luck with them. So we'll have to see how it goes. But this is a thornless rose. It's a climber. It's really old-fashioned rose, and it has a nice pink bloom, like a hot pink, fuchsia pink. And it's right near my quickfire hydrangea. Another cool thing about this Zephrine Druin Rose is that it can take a little bit of shade. And then I started to inspect the buds, and this one looks like it could have thrips, and this one definitely has some aphids. So see, I spoke too soon. Got to squish those guys. I'm going to have to spray these at some point later this evening when the sun starts to go down. I interplanted a Duchess of Edinburgh clematis on this trellis, and it's been here, I want to say this is its 3rd year, and it's just now starting to open up. It's a double clematis. I'm not sure what's going on with the foliage here, but it should be really pretty. This spring, I also purchased 3 pots of these oriental poppies, and they should be a lot taller, but I don't know what's going on. Some of the foliage is turning yellow, so it's either too much water or not enough water, and the bloom is sort of just sitting on top of the foliage. But I do have a Alexandra Louise variety that's salmon that I know they get a lot taller. So it could just be because these are new. They're still adjusting, but I hope they make it through the winter and come back really pretty next year. So here is the tag. They're really pretty white with a dark center. These are a perennial type poppy, and they get fairly tall, 30 inches. Is their height, and it says plant in full sun, so I pushed them out to this corner so that they wouldn't be shaded by my magnolia. And their bloom time is late spring to early summer. So we are in late spring now, or the later half of spring, and I have 2 tiny little short blooms. A couple of years ago, I grew some verbascum from seed. The variety I believe was called Snowy Spires, and it was a white one with a purple center. And then last spring, I went to a plant sale, and I found this beautiful one called Southern Charm, and it's a really pretty mauvey pink with a purple center. And they have a similar growth structure to, say, a foxglove, where they have a clump of foliage at the base, and then they send up their spiky bloom stalks. But this variety is really pretty. This Julia Rose Etopione finally bloomed. I planted this from bare root last spring I had bought it from Longfield Gardens, and this year I got one bloom, and it's really pretty. The Louise Rowe clematis that I planted at the base of this tree back here in my woodland area is blooming. Has one bloom and one bud, but this bud is drooping a little, so I don't know that it will open. I actually had to clean off a couple of leaves because it started to get some of that clematis wilt, which happens to me pretty often with my clematis. So if you have any experience with it, I would love some tips on how to handle that. But it's a really pretty light lavender double bloom clematis. And here is my back woodland bed that sits right behind our new Japanese maple garden. And it's also filling out pretty nicely. The Alexander loosestrife has really pretty variegated foliage, and that should have some yellow blooms in the next few weeks. And then I have some geranium in bloom that is really pretty. I thought it was Roseanne, but I don't think it is because it blooms for me now and it doesn't continue to bloom. And there's some kind of critter trying to get in there. Look at that. We'll leave it be. And then the pulmonaria, or the lungwort. After it blooms, the foliage gets a lot larger and it's looking really lovely. I also have another type of geranium with dark foliage that's blooming here. These were some bare root geraniums that I got from Longfield Gardens in those Costco bags. A friend had mailed them to me, and they're beautiful. They're very similar to the Proven Winners Boom Chocolata geranium. Some variegated Solomon seal, and this year I have a newfound appreciation for this plant. I absolutely love it. I did move it from under the scrub oak and pines that I have because I feel like they could spread a lot better without so much root competition. So I'm hoping that it's going to be happy in this new spot among the hellebore. A few years ago, I want to say it's been at least 5 years, I purchased this skinny little dogwood from Home Depot. And it has not put on any size in terms of the width of the caliper. It is still pretty much similar to when I purchased it, but it is beautiful, so I keep it around. And this year the foliage looks really pretty. Now, it was just labeled as white dogwood, but I was able to take a picture of the foliage and the blooms this year and used Google AI. So you just take a picture, you go into your photos and you choose lens, and look at this. I found out that it's called a celestial shadow dogwood. So sometimes you just never know what you're going to find at the box store. And in this case, I found this beauty. There is also a variety called Summer Gold that has this variegation. So it could be Celestial Shadow or it could be the Summer Gold Korean Dogwood. But nonetheless, it's a really unique variety. And in this other back woodland bed that I have, a couple of other things in bloom. So the bleeding hearts are now done, but I have some columbine starting up. The geranium macarizum has been blooming for about a week. My dwarf Korean lilac has also begun blooming, and a rhododendron right behind it. And if you recall the European beech tricolor, or the tricolor beech that I purchased last year on clearance at the Home Depot for around $20, it is starting to leaf out. And it has really beautiful spring color. Now something is eating on it. We have an issue with tent caterpillars in the spring on all of our trees. So we've been trying to spray with BT about once a week. And you can tell because you see all of this webbing. And then once in a while you will find a little green caterpillar. So you see this webbing here? But it still has quite a bit to unfurl, so I'm hoping to get the infestation under control so that we can sort of enjoy this tree and see how it changes throughout the season. But so far it's really pretty. And here in my vegetable garden I have some storm cloud Amsonia that is now almost finished blooming. A gardener friend had shared this with me a couple of years ago, and I wasn't sure where to plant it, so I put it here in my vegetable garden, and it's been growing really well. So now I'm going to think about where I want to plant it out in the landscape. And the royal purple smoke bush that I planted last year is looking really pretty this spring. And it's actually sending up some bloom stalks. Look at that, you can see all the buds. And so this year we should get those pretty blooms that almost look like a puff of cotton candy. This is a great shrub to add some dark red color to your garden. And the leaves are really pretty. My Miss Kim lilac is also starting to bloom. I absolutely love lilacs. I have about 3 of them in my garden now. The first one to bloom was the bloomerang, and then the dwarf Korean lilac, and now the Miss Kim. But they have such a wonderful fragrance, and they're such a traditional spring flowering shrub. So if you don't have one, I highly recommend one. Our new Japanese maple garden area is also looking really beautiful this spring. And I recently posted a video about it last week. So if you wanted to go ahead and check that out, I named the variety of the maples as well as the plants that I have in this area. So I hope that you've enjoyed checking out the garden as it looks now at the end of May. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.